In the autumn of 1898, nestled within a modest townhouse on a quiet street in London's burgeoning Bloomsbury district, Dr. William Hargrove began a peculiar chapter of his life. A chapter that would intertwine the emerging art of photography with the enigmatic realm of the supernatural. At 52, Dr. Hargrove was a man of science and reason, a respected physician whose meticulous mind had long been devoted to the empirical study of the human body and mind. Yet, it was through the lens of his early photographic equipment that he would soon claim to have glimpsed something far beyond the reach of conventional understanding. Before we unravel the astonishing story of a doctor whose groundbreaking pursuit of the supernatural leads him down a haunting path, be sure to subscribe and like the video to stay updated on our captivating explorations. And tell me, have you ever encountered something that challenged your understanding of reality as we dive into this extraordinary tale? The townhouse itself was unassuming, its brick facade weathered by the damp English air. Yet within its walls, the atmosphere was charged with a mixture of anticipation and unease. Dr. Hargrove's study, cluttered with medical texts, mechanical apparatus, and the bulky camera equipment that had recently captured his fascination, became the stage upon which this extraordinary tale unfolded. This narrative, pieced together through Dr. Hargrove's own detailed diary entries and the recollections of those closest to him, offers a window into a world where the boundaries between science and the supernatural blurred. To appreciate the gravity of Dr. Hargrove's claims, one must consider the cultural milieu of London at the fin de siècle. The city was a crucible of intellectual fervor, caught between the fading certainties of Victorian rationalism and a burgeoning fascination with spiritualism and the occult. Public interest in seances, mediumship, and the possibility of life beyond death was at an all-time high, fueled by sensational newspaper reports and a growing community of spiritualists. Simultaneously, the rapid advancement of technology, particularly in the realm of photography, promised to capture realities invisible to the naked eye, offering new tools to probe existence's deeper mysteries. Dr. Hargrove, a man of the Enlightenment tradition, found himself torn. Though deeply skeptical of the supernatural, he could not dismiss the strange occurrences reported within his own home, nor the tantalizing evidence his photographs seemed to reveal. It was this tension between skepticism and belief that animated his diaries and fueled his obsessive inquiry. The story begins on a crisp October evening. Dr. Hargrove had just returned from a late consultation at the London hospital when he paused at the threshold of his home, struck by an unusual stillness that hung in the air. Inside, the gas lamps cast flickering shadows across the parlor, where his wife, Elizabeth, sat quietly, her knitting needles paused mid-motion. The doctor's eyes immediately caught a subtle disturbance, a faint, shifting shadow near the fireplace that seemed to move independently of any physical source. "Did you see that, Elizabeth?" he asked cautiously, though he was loath to admit the unease creeping into his voice. Elizabeth looked up, her pale face framed by strands of chestnut hair, and nodded slowly. "I did. It's been happening more often these past few nights. At first, I thought it was merely the play of light, but now it feels deliberate." This was no ordinary domestic unease. Elizabeth's normally pragmatic nature gave weight to her words, and Dr. Hargrove, though skeptical, resolved to observe carefully. Over the following days, he began to document the occurrences with clinical precision, noting every flicker of shadow, every unexplained chill that pervaded the rooms of their home. His diary entries from October 22nd read, "Tonight, as I set the camera by the window, preparing to experiment with long-exposure photography. I sensed a presence, something unseen yet palpable. The instruments registered a slight electromagnetic disturbance, though I cannot yet determine its cause. Elizabeth remains unsettled, claiming to hear faint whispers when the house is otherwise silent. What set Dr. Hargrove apart from many contemporaries was his application of emerging photographic technology to capture these phenomena. Early photography was still a cumbersome art, with exposure times measured in minutes and equipment bulky and unwieldy. Yet the very nature of the process, capturing light beyond immediate perception, offered a tantalizing possibility. Could the camera reveal entities or forces imperceptible to human senses? By late October, Dr. Hargrove had modified his camera apparatus, adding a series of lenses and experimenting with different light exposures during nocturnal hours. The nights were long and cold, the fog that frequently blanketed London lending an eerie quality to the setting. On several occasions, he left the camera running in the parlor while the household retired to their chambers, hoping to catch any spectral activity. One evening, after developing a series of photographs, Dr. Hargrove noted with a mixture of excitement and apprehension the faint outlines that appeared in several frames, shapes resembling human figures, but blurred and translucent, barely distinguishable from the surrounding darkness. The images defied easy explanation. Were they artifacts of the photographic process, or something more profound? His diary entry for November 5th captures this moment of tentative revelation. The images on the plates reveal forms that I cannot attribute to any known cause. I have consulted with Mr. Langley, the local photographer, who assures me of the plate's integrity. If these shapes are indeed apparitions, then photography has become the first true medium through which the unseen may be recorded. Friends and acquaintances, initially amused by Dr. Hargrove's newfound obsession, began to show a mixture of curiosity and concern. At a gathering hosted in his home, Dr. Hargrove displayed several of the photographs, inviting discussion. Among the guests was Reverend Samuel Whitmore, a man deeply involved in spiritualist circles, who expressed cautious optimism. Perhaps, Whitmore mused, we stand at the dawn of a new age, where science and spirit may finally converse. Yet not all were convinced. Dr. Eleanor Finch, a colleague and fellow physician, urged restraint. William, she cautioned, we must guard against wishful thinking. The mind is prone to find patterns where none exist. These shadows may well be nothing more than photographic anomalies. Despite such warnings, Dr. Hargrove pressed on. In his private writings, he wrestled with the implications of his discoveries. Was he on the brink of substantiating the existence of spirits, or merely chasing shadows cast by his own imagination? This internal conflict lent a deeply human dimension to his scientific pursuit. Within the walls of the Bloomsbury townhouse, the atmosphere grew increasingly charged. Elizabeth reported cold spots that seemed to follow her from room to room, and whispered voices that no one else could hear. The household staff became uneasy, some refusing to work after dark. Dr. Hargrove, while maintaining his composure, confided in his diary the toll these experiences were taking. I find myself haunted not only by the shadows in my photographs, but by the shadow of doubt within my own mind, he wrote on November 17th. The autumn of 1898 thus marks the beginning of a remarkable convergence. The collision of technological innovation and the age-old human yearning to pierce the veil of mortality. Dr. William Hargrove, with his camera and his unyielding curiosity, stands at the crossroads, poised to document phenomena that would challenge the very foundations of science and belief. As the days shortened and the London fog deepened, the quiet Bloomsbury townhouse became a nexus of mystery. Through Dr. Hargrove's meticulous records and the testimonies of those around him, the story emerges not merely as a tale of ghostly apparitions, but as a profound inquiry into the limits of perception, the power of emerging technology, and the restless human spirit seeking to know what lies beyond. At the close of the 19th century, London stood at a peculiar crossroads of belief and skepticism, progress and tradition. The city's gaslit streets and grand museums bore witness to an era grappling with the tension between Victorian rationalism, a world-view rooted in empirical science and unyielding logic, and a burgeoning fascination with spiritualism and the occult. It was within this charged atmosphere that Dr. William Hargrove's investigations unfolded, a convergence of personal curiosity and cultural zeitgeist that shaped the reception and significance of his claims. The Victorian era had long championed scientific advancement, with luminaries such as Charles Darwin and Michael Faraday reshaping humanity's understanding of the natural world. Yet, beneath the surface of this confident rationalism, a widespread yearning persisted, a yearning to reconcile the material with the immaterial, to glimpse what might lie beyond the veil of death. Spiritualism, with its promise of communication with departed souls, gained traction among a diverse following, ranging from grieving widows to intellectuals questioning the limits of science. London, as the empire's heart, echoed with this duality. Public lectures on evolution and natural philosophy filled lecture halls by day, while evenings often saw parlors transformed into séance rooms, where mediums claimed to channel spirits through raps, ectoplasm, or trance states. Newspapers chronicled both scientific discoveries and sensational ghost stories with equal fervor, feeding a public appetite for the mysterious. It was against this backdrop that photography emerged as a powerful new technology. Since its invention in the 1830s and 1840s, photography had rapidly evolved, becoming more accessible and sophisticated by the 1890s. The ability to capture images with mechanical precision introduced an unprecedented means of documenting reality. For many, cameras were instruments of truth, capable of preserving moments with unerring accuracy. This belief extended into the spiritualist community, where spirit photography became a popular practice. Photographs purportedly showing ethereal figures or ghostly presences, often stirring both awe and controversy. Dr. Hargrove, a man deeply rooted in the scientific tradition, found himself navigating these intersecting currents. His medical training had instilled in him a respect for rigorous observation and skepticism, yet his experiments with photography and the supernatural challenged the strict binaries of his worldview. The society in which he moved was rife with debates between staunch materialists who dismissed spiritualism as superstition, and fervent believers who saw in emerging technologies the tools to validate their faith. His social circle reflected these tensions. Among his acquaintances were members of the Royal Society and other learned institutions, who regarded spiritualism with thinly veiled disdain, often referring to it as a distraction from genuine scientific inquiry. Conversely, the Bloomsbury area attracted artists, writers, and intellectuals who were more open to exploring alternative perspectives, including occult philosophies and mystical traditions. This eclectic mix created fertile ground for Dr. Hargrove's investigations, offering both critics and collaborators. The cultural fascination with the occult was not limited to private circles. Public exhibitions, such as the annual International Exhibition of Spiritualist Phenomena, drew crowds eager to witness demonstrations of mediumship and psychic phenomena. Pamphlets and periodicals devoted to the supernatural enjoyed wide circulation, feeding a growing market driven by both genuine belief and sensationalism. The press, too, played a significant role, with newspapers reporting on seances and ghost sightings alongside scientific breakthroughs, blurring the lines between fact and fiction. In this milieu, Dr. Hargrove's photographic endeavors assumed a significance beyond mere personal curiosity. His work intersected with contemporary debates about the nature of reality, the reliability of sensory perception, and the possibility of an afterlife. The camera, a device designed to capture the visible, paradoxically opened a door to the invisible, challenging the prevailing assumptions of materialist science. The technological innovations of the time further fueled this dynamic. Advances in lenses, photographic plates, and exposure techniques allowed images to be captured with greater clarity and in lower light conditions. Experimenters like Dr. Hargrove were able to push the boundaries of what the camera could reveal, turning it into an instrument not just of documentation, but of revelation. The interplay between technology and belief created a potent mix that resonated deeply with the public imagination. Yet, this era was also marked by a pervasive anxiety about the limits of human knowledge and control. The rapid industrialization and urbanization of London brought both progress and dislocation, engendering feelings of alienation and uncertainty. The spiritualist movement offered solace and meaning in a world that seemed increasingly mechanized and impersonal. Dr. Hargrove's investigations, situated within this context, can be seen as a microcosm of broader cultural efforts to bridge the chasm between scientific modernity and ancient human hopes. Within his own writings, Dr. Hargrove acknowledged this broader context, reflecting on the intellectual currents that surrounded him. In a letter to a colleague dated November 1898, he noted, "Our age is one of paradox, where the empirical eye seeks proof even as the heart yearns for mysteries beyond reason. I find myself caught between these forces, compelled to pursue evidence where others may see only shadows." His wife Elizabeth, too, embodied this duality. Educated and practical, she maintained a cautious openness to the possibility that their home might be touched by something beyond ordinary experience. Her support lent Dr. Hargrove both emotional strength and a grounding presence amid the uncertainties of his work. The Victorian fascination with death and the afterlife also cast its shadow over the investigations. Death was a constant presence in daily life, with high mortality rates and frequent bereavement. Mourning customs were elaborate and deeply ingrained, reflecting a societal engagement with loss that was both intimate and public. Spiritualism's promise of communication with the deceased spoke directly to these cultural realities, offering hope and comfort. Moreover, the scientific community itself was not monolithic in its rejection of spiritualist claims. Figures such as Sir William Crookes and Sir Oliver Lodge, respected scientists of the era, lent cautious credibility to certain investigations into psychic phenomena. Their involvement lent a degree of legitimacy that complicated the binary between skepticism and belief, illustrating the nuanced debates of the time. Dr. Hargrove's position was thus emblematic of a broader struggle, a desire to reconcile the emerging scientific worldview with enduring spiritual questions. His experiments with photography, as a means to capture the unseen, placed him at a unique intersection where technology, culture, and belief converged. As autumn gave way to winter in London, the city's fog-shrouded streets and gaslit interiors became the backdrop for this unfolding drama. The prevailing cultural currents shaped not only the reception of Dr. Hargrove's work, but also the very nature of the phenomena he sought to document. In a society oscillating between faith and doubt, his quest embodied the restless human impulse to seek meaning beyond the visible, to harness the tools of modernity in pursuit of ancient mysteries. Through the lens of history, Dr. Hargrove's story serves as a poignant reflection of an era grappling with profound transformation. The late 19th century was a time when science and superstition coexisted uneasily, when technology promised to unlock secrets yet to be fully understood, and when individuals like Hargrove stood at the threshold, attempting to illuminate the shadows that lingered at the edges of reason. In the weeks following his initial photographic experiments, Dr. William Hargrove began to notice that the disturbances within his home were growing more frequent and unsettling. What had started as fleeting shadows and inexplicable chills soon escalated into a series of events that challenged even his steadfast scientific resolve. The quiet Bloomsbury townhouse, once a sanctuary of rational inquiry, became a stage for phenomena that defied easy explanation, unsettling not only Dr. Hargrove, but all who dwelled within its walls. The earliest signs were subtle: a faint rustling sound behind closed doors, a whisper of movement in empty rooms. Elizabeth, ever attuned to the atmosphere of their home, was the first to voice concerns. One evening in early December, as she sat by the hearth, knitting in the flickering lamplight, she suddenly shivered. "William," she said softly, "I heard footsteps on the stairs just moments ago, though no one is here but us." Dr. Hargrove, ever the physician, attributed such occurrences to natural causes: settling floorboards, the drafty architecture of their Victorian home. But he noted them diligently in his diary. Yet, as days passed, the anomalies multiplied. Late, at night, the household was disturbed by intermittent sounds: the faint clicking of unseen objects, the rustle of fabric, even the soft murmur of indistinct voices that seemed to emanate from the very walls. One particularly disquieting incident involved the household's young maid, Mary. She reported seeing vague, shadowy figures moving just beyond the periphery of her vision while performing chores in the dimly lit corridors. Terrified, she confided in Elizabeth, who reassured her but could not dismiss the growing unease. Mary's reluctance to work after dark posed practical challenges, as well as deepening the sense that the house was no longer entirely their own. Dr. Hargrove's scientific skepticism was tested further when Elizabeth described sensations of sudden cold spots that seemed to follow her from room to room. On several occasions, she claimed to have caught glimpses of a faint, indistinct shape, hovering near the window, or reflected in the polished surfaces of mirrors. Though a woman of reason, Elizabeth's accounts grew increasingly vivid and specific, lending a measure of credibility that compelled her husband's attention. These experiences prompted Dr. Hargrove to increase his vigilance. He installed rudimentary instruments to monitor temperature fluctuations and electromagnetic activity within the house, fields of study then in their infancy, but already suggesting potential links to unexplained phenomena. Night after night, he stationed his camera and measuring devices in various rooms, attempting to capture evidence that could withstand scientific scrutiny. On the night of December 12th, an entry in his diary reveals the intensity of the events. At approximately 11:30 p.m., while monitoring the parlor, I observed a sudden drop in temperature by nearly 10 degrees Fahrenheit, accompanied by a series of faint, rhythmic tapping sounds emanating from the corner near the fireplace. The camera, set to a 30-minute exposure, captured several anomalies on the plate, ghostly shapes that defy natural explanation. This documentation marked a turning point for Dr. Hargrove. The confluence of sensory disturbances, instrumental readings, and photographic evidence began to erode his initial doubts. Yet, he remained cautious, aware of the potential for artifacts or misinterpretations. He sought corroboration from Elizabeth, whose own experiences mirrored his observations, and from the household staff, whose reports aligned with the increasingly strange atmosphere. The doctor's correspondence with his colleague, Dr. Eleanor Finch, reveals his internal struggle. In a letter dated December 15th, he wrote, "I confess to a growing disquiet. The phenomena we witness are at odds with all I have been taught, yet the evidence mounts. I question if our understanding of the natural world is as complete as we presume." Elizabeth's own health began to suffer amid the stress. She complained of restless nights and bouts of fatigue, attributing her condition to the oppressive atmosphere. On several occasions, she described hearing urgent whispers in the darkness, voices that seemed to convey warnings or pleas. These experiences prompted a profound anxiety, as if unseen forces sought to communicate through her. The household's mounting unease did not go unnoticed by neighbors, some of whom remarked on the strange lights and sounds emanating from the townhouse during late hours. Rumors began to circulate, further isolating the Hargrove family and adding social pressure to their already fraught situation. In response, Dr. Hargrove took a methodical approach to the escalating disturbances. He began compiling detailed logs, noting times, locations, and descriptions of each event. He experimented with various photographic techniques, adjusting exposure times and angles in hopes of capturing clearer evidence. The camera became both a tool and a shield, a means to confront the unknown with measured inquiry. One particularly haunting episode involved a series of unexplained flickering shadows that danced across the walls of the upstairs corridor. Elizabeth, who had ventured to investigate a sudden noise, reported seeing a translucent figure, partially obscured by the dim gaslight. The apparition's form was indistinct, but unmistakably human in outline. Though frightened, Elizabeth's account was precise and composed, lending weight to the occurrence. Dr. Hargrove's scientific network began to take notice. He shared preliminary findings with Reverend Samuel Whitmore, whose spiritualist background offered a complementary perspective. Whitmore suggested that the house might be a locus of residual energy, or a point of contact between the material and spiritual realms. Though hesitant to embrace such interpretations fully, Hargrove welcomed dialogue, recognizing the limits of his own expertise. Conversely, some colleagues expressed skepticism. Dr. Eleanor Finch cautioned against embracing supernatural explanations prematurely, urging rigorous control of variables and consideration of psychological factors, such as suggestion or stress-induced hallucinations. Her correspondence challenged Hargrove to maintain scientific rigor amid emotional turmoil. Amid these tensions, Elizabeth's condition worsened. She began to exhibit symptoms that defied medical diagnosis: episodes of fainting, cold sweats, and a persistent pallor. She claimed that the voices she heard conveyed urgent messages, though their meaning remained elusive. The doctor found himself torn between his roles as caregiver and investigator, the lines between empirical observation and personal concern blurring. The household staff's morale declined as well. Several servants resigned, unwilling to endure the unsettling atmosphere. Those who remained were wary, often refusing to enter certain rooms after dusk. The once orderly home descended into an uneasy quiet, punctuated by moments of inexplicable disturbance. Throughout this period, Dr. Hargrove's diary became a testament to his relentless pursuit of understanding. He recorded not only the phenomena, but his evolving thoughts and doubts. His entries reveal a man caught between the certainties of science and the mysteries unfolding within his own home. On December 27th, he wrote, "The events challenge the foundations of my beliefs. I am compelled to consider that forces beyond current scientific knowledge may be at work. Yet, I must guard against haste in judgment. The pursuit of truth demands patience and caution." The increasing agitation within the house culminated in a night of particularly intense activity. Elizabeth reported hearing a chorus of voices speaking in unison, their tone urgent and imploring. Objects reportedly moved unaided, and cold spots multiplied. The doctor attempted to record the phenomena with his instruments, though the equipment malfunctioned under unknown influences. This escalation underscored the profound mystery enveloping the Hargrove household. The boundary between observer and participant blurred as the family grappled with forces that defied explanation. Dr. Hargrove's scientific inquiry had become a deeply personal ordeal, testing his resolve and reshaping his understanding of the possible. Within the confines of the Bloomsbury townhouse, the once quiet nights now echoed with whispers and shadows. The doctor's meticulous records, combined with Elizabeth's vivid experiences and the staff's fearful testimonies, created a compelling but troubling picture, one that demanded further investigation and posed questions that reached beyond the limits of contemporary science. On a cold December evening, Dr. William Hargrove set about capturing what he hoped would be definitive evidence of the spectral phenomena that had haunted his home for weeks. Armed with his cumbersome early motion picture camera, a bulky contraption requiring careful setup, long exposure times, and meticulous handling, he resolved to document the unseen forces that had disrupted his household. This moment marked a significant shift in his investigation, as he moved beyond still photography into the nascent realm of motion pictures, seeking to grasp not just static images, but the ephemeral movement of apparitions. The camera, a marvel of late 19th century technology, was mounted on a sturdy tripod in the parlor, the epicenter of many reported disturbances. The room was dimly lit by gas lamps, their flickering flames casting dancing shadows on the wallpapered walls. Elizabeth, seated nearby, observed silently, her face pale yet resolute. The household staff had withdrawn for the evening, leaving the doctor and his wife alone in the house's growing stillness. Dr. Hargrove initiated the camera's lengthy exposure sequence shortly after 10 p.m., positioning it to capture the area near the fireplace, the locus of many prior anomalies. He recorded in his diary, "The apparatus is set. I shall leave it to run unattended, trusting in its capacity to capture what eludes the eye." As the night deepened, the house seemed to hold its breath. The usual creaks and murmurs that accompanied the old dwelling's nocturnal rhythms were subdued, replaced by an expectant silence. Then, as midnight approached, subtle movements began to manifest. Flickers of shadow at the periphery, a faint rustling of unseen fabric, and a chilling drop in temperature, noted by Dr. Hargrove's makeshift thermometers. Upon dawn's first light, the doctor retrieved the photographic plates and film reels, hastening to develop them in his makeshift darkroom. The process was painstaking. Early motion picture film required chemical baths and careful handling, with each step crucial to preserving the fragile images. Hours later, after the plates had dried and the reels were prepared for viewing, Dr. Hargrove gathered with Elizabeth and a small group of trusted acquaintances to examine the footage. What they saw was unlike anything captured by conventional photography. The film revealed fleeting forms, ethereal figures that flickered and shimmered against the backdrop of the parlor. These apparitions, barely discernible yet undeniably present, moved with a fluidity and purpose that defied natural explanation. At times, the shapes coalesced into vague human outlines. At others, they dissolved into wisps of light and shadow. Elizabeth's eyes widened as she recognized certain movements that corresponded to the disturbances she had described. "There," she whispered, pointing to a translucent figure that appeared near the fireplace. "That is what I have seen in the dark." The presence of these images sparked a mixture of wonder and skepticism among those present. Mr. Langley, a local photographer and colleague, invited to inspect the plates, affirmed their authenticity. "No manipulation or double exposure could produce such effects," he stated. "The images are genuine captures of something beyond ordinary perception." Yet, some attendees remained cautious. Reverend Samuel Whitmore, ever mindful of the spiritualist context, suggested that the figures might represent residual energies, impressions left behind by past events rather than conscious entities. Others questioned whether the flickering nature of the images resulted from the technical limitations of the camera, citing the long exposure times and film sensitivity as possible sources of distortion. Dr. Hargrove himself grappled with these interpretations. While scientifically minded, he could not dismiss the possibility that the camera had indeed recorded genuine manifestations of the supernatural. His diary entry from December 20th reflects this ambivalence. The film reveals what the eye cannot see, yet the question remains: are these specters of the mind, remnants of memory, or something more? The footage quickly became the subject of intense debate within London's scientific and spiritualist communities. At a meeting of the local scientific society, Dr. Hargrove presented the film to an audience divided between intrigue and incredulity. Some members applauded the innovation and the potential to expand the boundaries of empirical study. Others voiced doubt, accusing him of sensationalism or questioning the validity of the medium itself. Newspapers seized upon the story, sensationalizing the images as proof of ghosts caught on film. Headlines proclaimed, "Doctor's camera captures the unseen, and spectral figures revealed in London home." While public fascination swelled, the media frenzy also attracted charlatans and skeptics alike, each eager to stake claim or debunk the phenomenon. Within the Hargrove household, the impact of the film was profound. Elizabeth found a measure of validation in the images, her own experiences no longer dismissed as mere fancy. Dr. Hargrove, however, felt the weight of responsibility, both to his scientific principles and to the growing public spectacle his work had generated. The film's anomalies extended beyond mere shapes. Subtle electromagnetic readings recorded during the filming sessions suggested an interaction between the apparitions and the physical environment. Instruments detected fluctuations coinciding with the appearance and disappearance of the spectral figures, hinting at a complex relationship between the phenomena and ambient energies. Encouraged by these findings, Dr. Hargrove planned further experiments, aiming to refine his techniques and capture more definitive evidence. He considered employing multiple cameras, varying exposures, and integrating emerging technologies, such as X-ray imaging, to probe the nature of these apparitions. Yet, the emotional toll of the investigations weighed heavily. Elizabeth's health continued to decline amid the stress, and Dr. Hargrove found himself increasingly isolated, caught between scientific rigor and the mysteries unfolding in his own home. The household atmosphere grew tense, a mixture of hope, fear, and uncertainty permeating daily life. As word of the film spread, Visitors arrived seeking to witness the phenomena firsthand. Some came with genuine curiosity, others with skepticism or opportunism. The Hargroves maintained a guarded hospitality, mindful of the delicate balance between sharing their findings and protecting their privacy. In correspondence with Reverend Whitmore, Dr. Hargrove mused, "The camera has opened a window, yet what lies beyond remains elusive. Are these shadows echoes of the past, spirits seeking communication, or manifestations of forces we have yet to comprehend? The pursuit of knowledge demands perseverance, yet I am mindful of the dangers that such inquiry entails." The early motion picture footage thus marked a pivotal moment in the unfolding investigation. For the first time, the elusive phenomena were captured not as fleeting, still images, but as moving forms, offering a dynamic glimpse into a realm beyond ordinary sight. The implications resonated far beyond the confines of the Bloomsbury townhouse, stirring scientific debate, public fascination, and spiritual reflection. Through this lens, Dr. Hargrove's work challenged contemporary notions of reality and perception, suggesting that the boundaries between the seen and unseen were far more permeable than previously imagined. The film footage stood as both evidence and enigma, a testament to the mysterious forces that hovered at the edges of Victorian London's rational world. Following the remarkable emergence of spectral images on Dr. William Hargrove's motion picture footage, the doctor sought to bring scientific rigor to bear on these perplexing phenomena. Recognizing the need for impartial scrutiny, he invited a cadre of fellow scientists, photographers, and experts to examine both the physical evidence and the circumstances surrounding the apparitions documented within his Bloomsbury townhouse. This collaborative approach aimed to dispel doubts, identify potential flaws, and, if warranted, validate the extraordinary claims with empirical authority. The first to arrive was Mr. Henry Langley, a distinguished photographer with extensive experience in both portraiture and the technical aspects of photographic development. Langley's reputation for meticulousness lent immediate credibility to the inquiry. He conducted a thorough analysis of the photographic plates and motion picture reels, employing all available methods to detect signs of tampering or manipulation. Under close inspection, no evidence of fraud or accidental double exposure was found. The plates bore the unmistakable marks of authentic early photographic processes, and the spectral forms persisted across multiple frames and exposures. Next came Dr. Arthur Pembroke, a physicist specializing in electromagnetism, whose attendance underscored the growing interest in the relationship between physical fields and anomalous phenomena. Dr. Pembroke brought with him an array of nascent instruments, including galvanometers and rudimentary electromagnetic field detectors, to measure any fluctuations coinciding with the appearances of the apparitions. His meticulous observations revealed consistent, albeit subtle, electromagnetic disturbances within the rooms where the phenomena were most pronounced, particularly near the fireplace and the upper hallway. These readings, though faint, suggested an interaction between the spectral forms and the material environment, a finding that intrigued the assembled scientists. Dr. Hargrove also enlisted the perspectives of Dr. Eleanor Finch, a fellow physician and skeptic, to ensure that medical and psychological explanations were thoroughly considered. Dr. Finch conducted interviews with Elizabeth Hargrove and the household staff, evaluating the possibility of suggestion, hysteria, or shared delusion. While she acknowledged the subjective nature of some testimonies, she conceded that the consistency and independent corroboration of multiple witnesses lent weight to the reality of the disturbances. Throughout the examination, the experts grappled with the limitations imposed by contemporary technology. The photographic plates, while remarkable, offered only indirect visual evidence, and the electromagnetic instruments lacked the sensitivity and precision that future advances would provide. Nevertheless, the convergence of visual, instrumental, and testimonial data formed a compelling, if enigmatic, picture. In detailed reports submitted to a local scientific society, the assembled experts outlined their findings. Langley emphasized the technical integrity of the photographic evidence, stating, "The images defy conventional explanation and cannot be attributed to known photographic errors or deception." Dr. Pembroke's report noted, "The electromagnetic anomalies coincide temporally and spatially with the appearance of the spectral forms, suggesting an interaction worthy of further study." Dr. Finch, while cautious, acknowledged, "The consistency of witness accounts and lack of medical explanation demand an open-minded inquiry." Despite the rigor of these investigations, the scientific community remained divided. Some members of the society embraced the findings as groundbreaking, arguing that Dr. Hargrove's work opened new frontiers in the study of phenomena traditionally relegated to superstition. Others dismissed the evidence as inconclusive, calling for more stringent controls and replication before accepting the existence of supernatural entities. Dr. Hargrove, for his part, maintained a careful balance between enthusiasm and skepticism. His diary entries reveal a man both exhilarated by the possibility of discovery and wary of the pitfalls of premature conclusions. On January 3, 1899, he wrote, "The convergence of evidence compels me to reconsider the boundaries of the known. Yet, I remain cautious, aware that the pursuit of truth demands patience beyond the allure of sensational claims." The investigations also illuminated the complex interplay between emerging technologies and human perception. The camera, once a passive recorder of light, had become an active participant in revealing phenomena imperceptible to the naked eye. The electromagnetic instruments hinted at underlying forces that challenged conventional physics. These tools, though rudimentary, expanded the horizons of inquiry, inviting reinterpretations of reality itself. Public interest in the case intensified as news of the scientific scrutiny reached broader audiences. Newspapers featured articles detailing the expert examinations, often sensationalized but grounded in the legitimacy conferred by the involvement of respected figures. Letters poured into Dr. Hargrove's home, some expressing support and fascination, others deriding the work as folly or trickery. Amid this growing attention, the doctor found himself navigating a delicate path. He welcomed earnest inquiry and collaboration, but guarded against exploitation and misrepresentation. The emotional toll of the investigations weighed heavily, especially as Elizabeth's health and spirits waned under the strain. The scientific scrutiny extended beyond the immediate circle. Scholars from distant institutions requested access to the photographic plates and reports, eager to conduct their own analyses. Some offered alternative hypotheses, ranging from atmospheric phenomena to psychological suggestion. The dialogue underscored the complexity and novelty of the case, resisting facile explanations. Notably, Dr. Hargrove's openness to interdisciplinary collaboration set a precedent. By bridging medicine, physics, photography, and spiritual inquiry, his approach anticipated future integrative studies of anomalous phenomena. The case became a focal point for debates about the scope and limits of scientific investigation, challenging the rigid boundaries that separated empirical study from metaphysical speculation. Within the walls of the Bloomsbury townhouse, the atmosphere remained charged. While the scientific examinations provided a framework for understanding, they did not diminish the mysterious quality of the events. The apparitions persisted, their presence a haunting reminder of the unknown. Dr. Hargrove's final report to the Scientific Society concluded with cautious optimism. While definitive explanations elude us, the evidence compels a reconsideration of phenomena once dismissed. Continued inquiry, employing advancing technologies and open minds, is essential. This phase of rigorous scientific engagement marked a turning point. The initial shock and wonder gave way to structured investigation, establishing a foundation for future exploration. Yet, the mysteries captured on film and witnessed by many remained unresolved, their implications echoing beyond the immediate circle of experts. The Hargrove case thus stands as a testament to the challenges inherent in confronting the unexplained. It reveals the tensions between belief and skepticism, the promise and limitations of emerging science, and the enduring human desire to illuminate the shadows that linger at the edges of perception. As the weeks unfolded into early 1899, the spectral phenomena within the Hargrove household intensified beyond prior experience, transforming from subtle disturbances into overt manifestations that defied the limits of Dr. William Hargrove's scientific framework. The once tentative flickers and whispers evolved into a crescendo of activity. Voices, apparitions, and physical disturbances that unsettled every member of the household and challenged the boundaries between empirical observation and the uncanny. The initial signs of escalation were auditory. Elizabeth reported hearing voices, ethereal and fragmented at first, then growing clearer and more insistent. These voices seemed to emanate from the walls and corners of the townhouse, often speaking in hushed tones that carried urgent warnings or cryptic messages. On several nights, she described conversations occurring in the darkness, voices overlapping and weaving patterns of sound that resisted comprehension, yet conveyed a palpable sense of urgency. Dr. Hargrove, ever the meticulous chronicler, documented these phenomena with a growing sense of unease. He installed sensitive recording devices, primitive phonographs adapted to capture ambient sounds, to capture the elusive voices. Though the technology was rudimentary, the recordings revealed faint murmurs and indistinct phrases that corroborated Elizabeth's experiences. The doctor's notes from February 2, 1899, reveal his conflicted state. The voices persist beyond the realm of coincidence or auditory hallucination. Their presence demands explanation, though their meaning remains obscure. Visual apparitions became more vivid and frequent. Elizabeth, once a passive observer, found herself at the center of these manifestations. She reported seeing translucent figures moving through the rooms, sometimes reaching out with ethereal hands or gesturing toward objects and areas of interest. These encounters left her visibly shaken, her health deteriorating under the strain. She suffered bouts of exhaustion, cold sweats, and episodes of faintness that eluded medical diagnosis. The household's physical environment bore the marks of this unrest. Books fell from shelves without apparent cause. Furniture shifted slightly, as if nudged by unseen hands. Doors opened and closed with no discernible explanation. The air grew heavy and cold in certain areas, creating palpable cold spots that seemed to follow Elizabeth's movements. The servants, now reduced in number due to resignations prompted by fear, reported similar experiences, deepening the household's atmosphere of tension and dread. Dr. Hargrove's scientific instruments, set to monitor electromagnetic fluctuations and temperature variations, registered erratic readings concurrent with the most intense manifestations. Gauges swung unpredictably, thermometers plummeted in seconds, electrical devices malfunctioned unexpectedly. These anomalies suggested an interaction between the apparitions and physical forces, yet defied contemporary understanding. Elizabeth's condition became a focal point of concern. She began to speak of the voices as communicators, entities attempting to convey warnings or messages beyond mortal comprehension. During episodes of trance-like states, she would utter phrases and names unfamiliar to those around her, sometimes sketching cryptic symbols that resembled no known language. These episodes, while alarming, offered tantalizing glimpses into the nature of the phenomena, hinting at intelligence behind the disturbances. Dr. Hargrove grappled with his dual roles as physician and investigator. His medical training compelled him to seek physiological explanations, stress-induced hallucinations, neurological disorders, or psychological trauma, yet none sufficed to explain the persistence and consistency of the experiences. Elizabeth underwent thorough examinations, and while her physical health declined, no identifiable illness accounted for her symptoms. In his diary, the doctor confessed, "I stand at a crossroads where science meets the ineffable. The phenomena resist categorization, challenging the frameworks of medicine and physics alike. I am torn between hope for understanding and fear of the unknown." The mounting pressure took its toll on the household's dynamics. Elizabeth's pallor and frailty deepened, prompting friends and acquaintances to express concern. Social engagements were curtailed. The family became increasingly insular. The remaining staff, though loyal, moved about with subdued apprehension, their conversations tinged with whispers of dread. The intensification of the phenomena also attracted external attention. Neighbors reported hearing strange noises emanating from the townhouse during the late hours, unexplained knocks, muffled voices, and fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures through curtained windows. Rumors spread through the Bloomsbury district, ranging from speculation about hauntings to tales of curses or supernatural retribution. In response, Dr. Hargrove sought counsel from Reverend Samuel Whitmore, whose spiritualist expertise offered a different lens through which to interpret the events. Whitmore proposed that Elizabeth might be a medium, a conduit through which entities communicated. He suggested that the manifestations represented attempts at contact, warnings from beyond the grave, or residual energies bound to the location. This perspective found some resonance with Elizabeth, who began participating in seances arranged by Whitmore and other spiritualist acquaintances. During these sessions, the intensity of phenomena often peaked, with voices growing louder and apparitions more distinct. Messages purportedly received during these gatherings spoke of unresolved matters and impending dangers, though their precise meaning remained elusive. While the spiritualist framework offered a narrative for understanding, it also introduced new anxieties. The nature of the communications, often ominous and urgent, imposed a psychological burden on Elizabeth and Dr. Hargrove alike. The doctor documented these experiences with clinical detachment, but was not immune to their emotional impact. The escalation further strained Dr. Hargrove's health and resolve. Sleepless nights, relentless investigation, and concern for his wife's well-being combined to erode his physical and mental stamina. His diary entries from this period reveal a man wrestling with doubt, fear, and a deepening commitment to uncovering truth. As the manifestations grew more frequent, the boundary between observer and participant blurred. Elizabeth, once a witness, became an active channel for the phenomena. Dr. Hargrove, once a detached scientist, found himself enmeshed in a reality that defied conventional explanation. The household itself seemed transformed, a liminal space where the natural and supernatural converged. Amid the turmoil, the doctor strove to maintain scientific rigor. Experiments continued, instruments were refined, and every occurrence was meticulously recorded. He sought to distinguish between subjective experience and objective evidence, aware that the credibility of his work depended on such discernment. Yet, the growing intensity of the phenomena raised profound questions about the nature of reality, consciousness, and the limits of human understanding. The Hargrove case, once a scientific curiosity, had become a profound existential challenge, one that beckoned toward mysteries beyond empirical reach. Within the confines of the Bloomsbury townhouse, the voices echoed, the shadows danced, and the unseen forces pressed ever closer. Dr. Hargrove and Elizabeth stood at the threshold of an unfolding enigma, their lives irrevocably altered by the relentless advance of the paranormal into the realm of the everyday. By early spring of 1899, the investigations into the strange phenomena at the Hargrove residence had drawn considerable public and scientific attention, culminating in a formal presentation by Dr. William Hargrove before the London Scientific Society. The event was set in the Grand Lecture Hall of the Royal Institution, where an audience of esteemed academics, skeptics, spiritualists, and curious members of the public gathered to witness the culmination of months of research and documentation. The atmosphere was charged with anticipation, underscored by an undercurrent of skepticism and intrigue that mirrored the wider societal tensions between empirical science and supernatural belief. Dr. Hargrove, standing at the podium, presented a carefully curated selection of photographic plates and motion picture reels, each displaying the elusive apparitions that had haunted his Bloomsbury townhouse. The images flickered on a projector screen, revealing ghostly forms that shimmered and shifted, accompanied by his detailed explanations of the accompanying electromagnetic anomalies and recorded sounds. His voice, measured and deliberate, conveyed both scientific rigor and a palpable sense of wonder. The audience's reaction was immediate and polarized. A contingent of skeptics, including prominent members of the Royal Society, voiced sharp criticisms. Some accused Hargrove of methodological flaws, suggesting that the images were artifacts of photographic technique or misinterpretations fueled by confirmation bias. Others questioned the validity of his instrumentation, arguing that the electromagnetic readings could be explained by environmental interferences or faulty devices. These detractors called for more stringent controls and independent verification before accepting any claims of supernatural origin. Conversely, a faction of the audience, comprising spiritualists, sympathetic scientists, and laypersons fascinated by the possibility of life beyond death, embraced the evidence as compelling proof of the paranormal. Reverend Samuel Whitmore, present among the attendees, expressed cautious optimism, highlighting the consistency of witness testimonies and the convergence of multidisciplinary data as hallmarks of credible research. For many, the presentation was a watershed moment, bridging the gulf between scientific inquiry and spiritual experience. Media coverage following the event was extensive and varied in tone. Newspapers across London published sensational headlines proclaiming the capture of ghosts on film, while others framed the story as a controversial scientific debate. Tabloids played up the mystery and drama, attracting public fascination and a flood of correspondence to Dr. Hargrove's household. Some letters offered support and encouragement. Others derided the work as charlatanry or folly. The mixed reception underscored the deep societal divisions regarding the intersection of science and the supernatural. Victorian England, while proud of its scientific achievements, remained a society steeped in religious tradition and open to spiritualist ideas. The Hargrove case became emblematic of this cultural crossroads, provoking vigorous discussion in salons, newspapers, and lecture halls. Within this milieu, Dr. Hargrove maintained a stance of cautious professionalism. He acknowledged the criticisms and emphasized the necessity of ongoing investigation and collaboration. His address concluded with an appeal to the scientific community to approach the phenomena with open minds and rigorous methods, recognizing the limitations of current knowledge and the potential for expanding the boundaries of understanding. The presentation also had personal repercussions. The heightened public scrutiny placed additional strain on Elizabeth Hargrove, whose health had been deteriorating. The couple's social circle offered mixed support. Some friends distanced themselves, wary of association with what they perceived as scandal, while others rallied to provide comfort and assistance. The Hargrove household became a focal point for visitors, scientists eager to witness the phenomena, spiritualists seeking confirmation, and sensationalists hoping to exploit the mystery. Amid this attention, rumors and accusations surfaced. Some detractors insinuated that the photographs and films were fabricated, or that the disturbances were orchestrated for notoriety. Dr. Hargrove faced challenges in safeguarding his reputation and protecting his family from intrusive speculation. He responded with measured public statements, reiterating his commitment to truth and scientific integrity. The societal debate extended into academic journals and periodicals. Articles both supporting and criticizing the Hargrove findings appeared, fueling an ongoing discourse about the nature of evidence, the limits of empirical study, and the legitimacy of spiritual phenomena. The case prompted reflections on the role of emerging technologies, such as photography and motion pictures, in revealing unseen aspects of reality. Scholars pondered whether these tools might uncover new dimensions of human experience, or simply magnify the illusions of the mind. Within the scientific society, the division sparked proposals for further research initiatives. Some members advocated for the establishment of dedicated commissions to study paranormal phenomena, using controlled experiments and interdisciplinary approaches. Others resisted, fearing that such endeavors would undermine the credibility of science and lend undue weight to superstition. Dr. Hargrove's work thus became a catalyst for broader conversations about the relationship between science, belief, and the unknown. His approach, combining empirical investigation with openness to novel possibilities, challenged prevailing orthodoxies and inspired both admiration and controversy. At home, the increased exposure compounded the pressures on the Hargrove family. Elizabeth's condition remained fragile, and the emotional weight of public scrutiny exacerbated her distress. Dr. Hargrove struggled to balance his scientific pursuits with the demands of caregiving and the need to shield his family from gossip and intrusion. Despite these challenges, the couple found solace in a small circle of trusted friends and colleagues who supported their endeavors. Regular meetings with Reverend Whitmore and select researchers provided intellectual and emotional sustenance, fostering a community committed to exploring the mysteries unveiled within the Bloomsbury townhouse. The episode at the London Scientific Society marked a pivotal moment in the unfolding saga, a public reckoning that exposed the fault lines between skepticism and faith, science and spirituality. It underscored the complexities of investigating phenomena that straddled the boundaries of established knowledge and revealed the societal tensions inherent in confronting the unknown. Dr. Hargrove's presentation, while not universally accepted, ensured that the case would remain in the public and scientific consciousness. It opened avenues for further inquiry, challenged assumptions, and invited a re-evaluation of what constitutes evidence and reality. As London's fog-shrouded streets carried whispers of ghosts caught on film, the Hargrove investigation stood at the crossroads of history, a testament to the enduring human quest to understand the unseen and the unfathomable. In the weeks following his public presentation before the London Scientific Society, Dr. William Hargrove's life took a sudden and perplexing turn. On the evening of April 3rd, 1899, shortly after a séance organized in hopes of deepening communication with the enigmatic forces that had long haunted his Bloomsbury townhouse, Dr. Hargrove vanished without a trace. The circumstances surrounding his disappearance were shrouded in mystery, igniting a wave of speculation, fear, and intrigue that gripped London's intellectual and social circles. The séance itself had been a somber affair, attended by close friends and spiritualist acquaintances who sought to establish clearer contact with the entities that had manifested through Elizabeth and the photographic evidence. The atmosphere was charged. Elizabeth, though frail, appeared focused, entering trance-like states as the group attempted to bridge the veil between worlds. Witnesses reported heightened activity, unexplained sounds, flickering lights, and a pervasive chill that seemed to descend upon the room. As the evening concluded, Dr. Hargrove retreated to his study to compile notes and reflect on the session's outcomes. When, by midnight, he had not emerged, concern grew among those present. A search of the house yielded no sign of the doctor. Windows and doors were secured. There was no evidence of forced entry or struggle. The household was left in stunned silence, grappling with the impossibility of his sudden absence. Initial investigations by local authorities proved fruitless. Neighbors reported no unusual comings or goings. The doctor's belongings remained untouched. The only clue was a faint, lingering coldness permeating the study, reminiscent of the spectral chill that had marked prior disturbances. Rumors quickly spread. Some whispered of supernatural abduction. Others suspected foul play, and a few speculated that Dr. Hargrove had fled to escape the mounting pressures of public scrutiny. Elizabeth, devastated and increasingly fragile, withdrew from public life. Her once active participation in investigations ceased, and she took refuge in seclusion, guarded by a small circle of loyal friends. Her only solace lay in the remaining photographic plates and diaries left behind by her husband, artifacts that now bore the weight of unanswered questions. The scientific community was thrown into turmoil. Colleagues expressed shock and disbelief, some fearing that the doctor's disappearance undermined the credibility of their shared work. Debates raged over whether the phenomena had somehow claimed him, whether he had been a victim of psychological breakdown, or if darker forces were at play. The case became a cautionary tale, evoking both fascination and apprehension. Amid the uncertainty, the diaries and films left by Dr. Hargrove became objects of intense scrutiny. Scholars and investigators pored over the records, seeking clues that might explain the disappearance or shed light on the nature of the haunting. The materials revealed a man consumed by his quest for understanding, grappling with revelations that challenged the foundations of science and belief. Public fascination deepened as sensationalist newspapers seized upon the mystery. Tales of curses, spectral abductions, and secret societies circulated widely, fueling a media frenzy that blurred fact and fiction. The Hargrove townhouse itself became a site of pilgrimage for thrill-seekers, spiritualists, and skeptics alike, each drawn by the allure of the unexplained. Among the few who maintained contact with Elizabeth was Reverend Samuel Whitmore, whose spiritualist perspective offered both comfort and counsel. Whitmore suggested that Dr. Hargrove's disappearance might be understood as a crossing, a passage into realms beyond mortal comprehension, facilitated by the very forces they had sought to study. Elizabeth, though grieving, found some solace in this interpretation, though she remained haunted by the loss. The government, wary of the growing public interest and the potential for unrest, initiated discreet inquiries. Intelligence officers reportedly visited the Hargrove residence, cataloguing materials and interviewing associates. The extent and findings of these investigations remain shrouded in secrecy, fueling speculation about official efforts to contain or suppress knowledge of the phenomena. In the months following the disappearance, reports surfaced from various parts of England and beyond of individuals experiencing episodes reminiscent of the Hargrove case. Visions, auditory phenomena, and encounters with impossible shadows. Some claimed to speak in tongues or languages unknown, echoing the mysterious utterances recorded by Elizabeth. These accounts suggested a possible spread or transmission of the phenomena, raising questions about their origin and nature. Despite exhaustive searches and inquiries, no trace of Dr. Hargrove was ever found. The official records labeled the case as a disappearance, but the underlying cause remained an enigma. His absence left a void in the ongoing investigation, halting progress and casting a pall over the burgeoning field of paranormal research. Elizabeth's final public statement, issued through trusted friends, expressed a mixture of grief and resolve. Though my beloved William is gone, his work endures. I implore those who seek truth to continue with courage and care, for the mysteries he uncovered are not to be feared, but understood. The Hargrove case, once a private exploration of the unknown, had transformed into a public legend, an enduring mystery that blurred the lines between science, spirituality, and the inexplicable. The disappearance of its central figure underscored the profound risks and costs inherent in confronting forces beyond human comprehension. In the years that followed, the remaining evidence, films, photographs, diaries, became cherished relics among paranormal investigators and historians, inspiring new generations to probe the boundaries of reality. The story of Dr. Hargrove's vanishing remained a haunting reminder of the fragile line between discovery and oblivion, a testament to the enduring human quest to illuminate the unseen worlds that lie just beyond our grasp. In the years following Dr. William Hargrove's mysterious disappearance, the legacy of his work and the enigmatic phenomena documented within the Bloomsbury townhouse took on a life of their own, shaping the nascent field of paranormal investigation and influencing the trajectory of scientific inquiry into the unknown. The films, photographs, and diaries left behind became foundational artifacts, studied and debated by scholars, skeptics, and believers alike, their significance echoing far beyond the immediate circle of those who had witnessed the original events. The Hargrove case emerged as one of the earliest and most meticulously documented attempts to capture and analyze supernatural phenomena through technological means. His pioneering use of photography and motion pictures to record apparitions paved the way for future generations of ghost hunters and researchers who sought to blend empirical methods with a recognition of experiences that defied conventional explanation. The meticulous records and collaborations with experts across disciplines established a model of inquiry that emphasized both rigor and openness, challenging the often rigid boundaries of academic science. Institutions dedicated to the study of the paranormal began to cite the Hargrove investigations as seminal. The Royal Commission for Psychical Research, established in the early 20th century, referenced the case in its foundational reports, acknowledging the challenges it posed to prevailing scientific paradigms. Researchers drew upon Hargrove's photographic evidence and diary accounts to develop protocols for investigating hauntings, mediumship, and unexplained phenomena, emphasizing the need for multidisciplinary approaches. The cultural impact of the case extended beyond academic circles. Tales of the Bloomsbury hauntings entered popular consciousness through books, lectures, and later early radio broadcasts. The story captured imaginations, inspiring artists, writers, and filmmakers who grappled with themes of the unseen and the uncanny. The figure of Dr. Hargrove himself became emblematic of the intrepid seeker, a man caught between skepticism and belief, science and mystery. Reports of individuals experiencing phenomena reminiscent of those documented by Hargrove continued to surface intermittently, often in locations associated with scientific breakthroughs or moments of profound human insight. Some researchers posited that the Hargrove effect, a term coined within paranormal circles, might represent a catalytic force, a subtle influence facilitating shifts in human cognition or perception. These theories, while speculative, underscored the enduring fascination with the case and its broader implications. The establishment of dedicated societies and journals focused on parapsychology and anomalous phenomena frequently reference the Hargrove materials as touchstones. Conferences and symposiums debated the validity of spiritualist claims in light of emerging scientific evidence, with the Bloomsbury investigations serving as a case study in the complexities of verifying and interpreting extraordinary experiences. Despite the passage of decades, the Hargrove films and photographs remained controversial. Advances in photographic and imaging technology prompted re-examinations of the original materials, with some experts affirming their authenticity, while others questioned the possibility of early photographic artifacts or misinterpretation. The debates highlighted the persistent tension between the desire for objective evidence and the subjective nature of paranormal experience. The personal story of Elizabeth Hargrove also continued to resonate. Her role as medium and witness was reinterpreted in light of evolving understandings of altered states of consciousness and psychical phenomena. Biographies and memoirs sought to humanize her experience, portraying her as both a participant in and victim of forces beyond mortal control. Amid these developments, the Hargrove case influenced discussions on the interplay between technology and perception. The use of cameras and instruments to detect phenomena invisible to the naked eye anticipated later scientific endeavors in fields ranging from quantum physics to neuroimaging. Scholars pondered whether such technologies might one day reveal dimensions of reality currently inaccessible, bridging the gap between the material and the immaterial. The story also inspired philosophical reflections on the nature of evidence, belief, and the limits of human understanding. The case challenged the notion that empirical science alone could capture the totality of human experience, suggesting that mysteries remained at the edges of perception, accessible only through a synthesis of methods and perspectives. In educational contexts, the Hargrove investigations became part of curricula, exploring the history of science and the paranormal. Students examined the case as an example of the complexities inherent in investigating phenomena that straddle science and spirituality, ethics and curiosity. The narrative underscored the importance of critical thinking, methodological rigor, and humility in the face of the unknown. The lasting influence of Dr. Hargrove's work is perhaps best encapsulated by the continuing efforts of researchers who, inspired by his pioneering spirit, seek to bridge the chasm between the known and the mysterious. Conferences commemorating the centenary of his disappearance drew attendees from around the world, reflecting the case's enduring global relevance. Yet, despite the advances and debates, the core enigma of the Bloomsbury phenomena remains unresolved. The apparitions, voices, and electromagnetic anomalies that so captivated Hargrove and his contemporaries continue to elude definitive explanation. This unresolved mystery sustains the case's allure, inviting ongoing inquiry and contemplation. In sum, the legacy of the Hargrove investigations is multifaceted, a testament to the challenges of confronting the unknown, a catalyst for interdisciplinary research, and a cultural touchstone that embodies humanity's enduring fascination with the supernatural. Through films, photographs, diaries, and the memories of those who witnessed the extraordinary, the case continues to inspire, provoke, and mystify, a beacon at the crossroads of science and spirit, reason and wonder. The enigma of Dr. William Hargrove and the spectral phenomena captured within his Bloomsbury townhouse endures as a profound puzzle, one that continues to provoke reflection on the nature of reality, perception, and the boundaries of human understanding. Despite extensive investigation, scientific scrutiny, and cultural examination, the core mysteries remain unresolved, inviting ongoing debate and contemplation. At the heart of this enduring mystery lies a fundamental question: can phenomena that defy empirical measurement be reconciled within the framework of science, or do they suggest dimensions of existence beyond our current comprehension? The Hargrove case, situated at the intersection of technological innovation and spiritual inquiry, challenges the assumption that all truth is accessible through observation alone. Over the decades, numerous theories have sought to explain the nature of the apparitions, voices, and electromagnetic anomalies documented by Hargrove and his contemporaries. Some posit that these phenomena are residual energies, impressions left by past events imprinted upon the physical environment. Others propose the existence of conscious entities or spirits, attempting communication across the veil, separating life and death. Still others suggest that the experiences are manifestations of altered states of consciousness, psychological projections, or collective unconscious archetypes. More speculative interpretations extend into realms of quantum physics and multidimensional realities, hypothesizing that such phenomena arise from interactions between parallel universes or higher planes of existence. While these ideas remain on the fringes of mainstream science, they underscore the depth of mystery surrounding the case and the human impulse to seek meaning beyond the tangible. The technological advancements that once enabled Hargrove's pioneering photographs and films now offer new tools to probe the paranormal. Digital imaging, electromagnetic field detectors, and neuroimaging technologies open possibilities for capturing and analyzing phenomena once deemed intangible. Yet, even with these instruments, the elusive nature of the events resists definitive capture, suggesting limits not only in technology, but in human perception itself. Philosophical inquiry accompanying scientific investigation raises questions about the nature of evidence and the role of belief. The Hargrove case exemplifies the tension between skepticism and faith, the drive to explain, and the acceptance of mystery. It invites consideration of whether some aspects of existence might forever transcend rational understanding, residing in a domain accessible only through intuition, experience, or revelation. Culturally, the story resonates as a metaphor for humanity's confrontation with the unknown. It reflects the enduring fascination with death, the afterlife, and the possibility of communication beyond mortal boundaries. The voices that whispered through the walls of the Bloomsbury townhouse echo in countless narratives across time and place, embodying universal themes of loss, hope, and the quest for connection. The narrative also prompts reflection on the ethical dimensions of investigating phenomena that profoundly affect individuals and communities. The experiences of Elizabeth Hargrove, caught between witness and participant, highlight the personal costs of such encounters, the fragility of mind and body, the burden of knowledge, and the challenge of navigating public scrutiny. In educational and scholarly contexts, the Hargrove case serves as a case study in the complexities of interdisciplinary research, the necessity of methodological rigor, and the humility required when confronting phenomena that challenge existing paradigms. It encourages openness to diverse perspectives while maintaining critical inquiry. Ultimately, the mystery of Dr. Hargrove and the spectral phenomena he sought to reveal invites each observer, scientist, skeptic, believer, or curious reader to consider the limits of human knowledge and the mysteries that lie just beyond the veil. It challenges us to embrace uncertainty, to question assumptions, and to remain ever vigilant in the pursuit of understanding. As technology advances and consciousness studies evolve, new generations may uncover insights that bring clarity to what now remains enigmatic. Until then, the story stands as a testament to the enduring human spirit, a reminder that some mysteries persist, not as obstacles, but as invitations to explore the depths of existence with wonder, courage, and humility. In the quiet shadows of the Bloomsbury townhouse, where light and darkness intertwine, the voices linger. They beckon us to listen, to seek, and to imagine realms beyond sight, realms where the impossible becomes possible, and where the boundaries of reality are but the beginning of a grander journey into the unknown.